you were fighting for your life against a bloodthirsty vampire, the top hat stayed on. A gentleman leaving the house without a top hat on was today's equivalent of a man walking into a Southern Baptist wedding with a neon mesh tank and pierced nipples underneath. After all, countless beavers did not die for you to walk around uncapped. Beaver top hats reigned in the early 1800s, and the latter half saw silk. They even had tiny versions called beaverkins. And just like the beaver helped hold back the water with a mighty dam, the beaver also held its shape in its afterlife on a man's head, unlike its cheaper alternative, the rabbit hat. Top hat lore has it that one man, John Hetherington, invented the top hat, and when he first stepped out with it in public, the ladies shrieked, the gentlemen guffawed, and according to the St. James Gazette in 1797, he was charged for having appeared on the public highway wearing upon his head a tall structure having a shining luster and calculated to frighten timid people. Variations of a tall hat had been around for a while. I think the story was published to make people hee-hee and ha-ha. Naturally, Abraham Lincoln was a silky boy, and he wore a stovepipe. Oh my God, toot. And he wore a stovepipe hat, but the streets say he never called his stovepipe hat a stovepipe hat. He called it a silk hat or a plug hat. According to Lincoln lore, he kept letters and documents up in his hat. That's why his hat was so big. It was full of secrets. Maybe he kept some letters to his male lovers up in there.
There is a soldier here devoted to the president, and when Mrs. L is not home, sleeps with him. What stuff!
But despite what we just saw, the stovepipe hat was typically straight on the sides, while one with slightly convex sides was called the chimney pot, not to be confused with the woman's flower pot hat. Top hats were also colloquially known as toppers, which happens to be the name of a strip club in my college town. The more fashionable of men had big brims, flared crowns, and some could reach up to 8 inches tall. Buffoonery. These tall hats led to many a crowded cloakroom, which led to the invention in the 1840s of the collapsible top hat, or the opera hat that let wearers collapse it and shove it under their seats, because the only thing worse than wearing a top hat indoors is wearing a top hat at the opera and obscuring vision.